corrections, recruiting officers, hiring officers, retention of officers. Why we seem to fail doing that? Well, there's different reasons. And I'm just clicking some buttons here. Why? Number one, it's a tough job. We'll just be quick. It's tough. It's simple. Sorry, it's tough. It's dirty. It's disgusting. It doesn't pay very well. But let's break some things down here. Let's break it down. I made a video talking on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe, Sergeant B. Larson. Recruiting 101 for corrections. And I made this video as I was running for county jailer 2 years ago here in Kentucky. And they were short-staffed. What does short staff lead to? A lot of problems. Safety issues. Safety for officers, safety for inmates. And I was talking about how to build up your staffing so that you don't have lawsuits. And the county I was running for here in Kentucky had several lawsuits pending. Failure to train, excessive force. Well, if you don't have staffing, you can't train. If you don't have staffing, you don't have training staff. You can't pull them off shift. They're working overtime. And this particular county agency and the county government was happy to spend $750,000, $800,000 a year in overtime instead of just hiring some people that would make up the difference each shift. I mean, they go into shift and they say, okay, who's staying late? Who's coming in early tomorrow? And if that's the first question they ask in roll call, in briefing, instead of saying, hey, glad to see everybody tonight. Hope everybody's doing well. Well, let's have a great shift. You know, they're there. Thank them. Let's make something positive out of this. And it didn't happen that way. So to kind of give an examples of these things, I'm going to tell you, I'm here in Kentucky 2 years ago, 2022. There was the first proposal to put a new federal prison in Letcher County, which is on bordering of Virginia. So here's what happens. Population 21,000. It's East Kentucky. It's coal mining. So what you're looking at, what you're going to deal with in coal mining, little town, is people, everybody kind of works. It's kind of like having a mill, you know, or a job that just has a factory or a car manufacturer plant in town, and that's like where everybody goes to work. They're going to put a federal prison and move in hundreds, thousand inmates. Now, these inmates are violent. They're federal inmates, federal charges, serious crimes. Going to come bring them and put them into the country. Why do you put them in a country? Because you want them kind of out of the way. That limits visitation. Hello. Work so many hours. Yes, they do. And they don't get to sleep. Thank you. So you put a prison in a small town. You cut down on visitation, yes. You're limiting their exposure to other people by being way out in the country. And I worked a prison down in Georgia. So who's going to work in a prison? Who in that 21,000 people in that county, or then you get some people commuting, who's going to drive all the way over there to go work a shift where you're working 12-hour shifts or maybe more? You're working 6 days, 7 days a week. Can't get much more than that. And then they'll say, oh, well, the community, the regular cost of living, you know, salaries to pay for something like this is in this ballpark range. So we're going to start off pay at $30,000. But then the hook is the overtime. But you got unlimited overtime. Oh, that's wonderful. But it's not wonderful when you have to wear big boots and walk up and down stairs and be in a dorm with 64 to 100, 120 inmates by yourself. Or like we were down there, being short, had 64 on each side. And officers have to take care of both sides with the control room in the middle. Control room officer. Now down in the special unit, the tier units, they were so short, they didn't have a control unit. Funny comment there, funny comment. Love heat. Hopefully you have not been in prison. So if you're working 64 on each side, now you got 128. And it comes time to pass out mail. You go through, you're passing out all the mail. And out of those 128, one of these officers is going to give you a bunch of, or one of the inmates is going to give you a bunch of garbage. Just going to give it to you just because that's how they are. Mouth's going to be running. They're going to bang on a door. I don't know how many ever, you have kids, and the kids, they do stuff repetitively and they kind of get on your nerves. Or maybe you have more than one child, and that more than one child does different things over and over and over again. Well, inmates sit there and just bang. Sit there and just bang. Take a pencil, go like this. They do this. From the second you walk in, you hear somebody yelling 5-0, and they're banging like this on the door the whole time. And loud and kicking and other stuff. Somebody may urinate under the door. There's a gap under there. Fire safety thing. So maybe all of a sudden somebody urinates under the door, stinking up the whole dorm. And you don't have anybody out, orderlies out to clean it and take care of it. You just go pass out some mail. You go to the other side and pass out mail. Well, they heard the banging on the A side, so the B side's going to start banging as well. And you get through all that, and they're banging on doors. And the next thing, you get a call. Well, hey, you need to get this inmate and this inmate out. 3 inmates to go out for a dental visit. 2-man escort. So you got to borrow the officers from somewhere else. You walk over and tell them, hey, brother, you busy? I got 3 inmates need to go to dental. Well, I got 2 got to go myself. You get the list. Okay, well, we'll get your 2 and then we'll get my 3. But that ties you up, and you still have other responsibilities. So then you tell your supervisor and the other couple officers in that unit, and you may only have 5 people, a sergeant, 4 officers in that unit. We had F1 and 2, G1 and 2, H1 and 2. And now all of a sudden you're spread thin. Spread way thin. You only make $30,000 a year. The guy's already urinating under the floor. You got to get people to dental, but you got to hurry up because you got an hour and a half. And you check in these lists. You call up there to the dentist. Oh no, they're just quick checkups. Nobody's getting teeth pulled or anything like that. Like my snaggle tooth, which is a great story. It's a great military story for later. So you rush, and it's time for chow. Then you got to get your orderly out for chow. This is daily life in a prison. So you get it out, and I was a sergeant, so it was different. I didn't have that dorm. I was kind of supervised and made sure that all 3 buildings, 2 sides, so that's 6 sides, all these were getting done. And chow time comes, so the sergeant goes up, so I go up, take an orderly up, 2 orderlies, let's go get chow. We go up there, we get the stuff, it's already pre-done in big metal cases, we got to push them down. Push it all down, get everything down there, and start feed off. And you go to start feed off, and they're locked up, so the doors don't open, they're not out, they're not going to the chow hall. You gotta, I have to go like this because of the size of the camera. But it's maybe 6 inches tall, 15 inches wide. You open that, stick your tray in. Just like a school lunch tray for your kids. You guys got kids. Open it up, you go to put it in. And the policy is the inmates aren't supposed to handle the food. And that's because they do bad stuff. They put bad stuff. They got their fingers dirty. They do actually what your kids do. The fingers are always, scratching their toes and their butt and everything else. And then they want to handle food trays. So the officers got gloves on, safety gloves on. Open the flap, undo the lock on some of the buildings were locked. Open it up and go to stick it in. And you're hoping and praying you get through chow, through your dorm, the other dorm, whatever you're involved in, without somebody reaching out, trying to grab your arm, hit your arm with something, spit in your face, because they're squatting down, kneeling with their face right here. Want to blow and spit right on your face. Or take a shampoo bottle and squirt. Want to squirt feces, urine, squirt something, other bodily fluids into your face. This is just giving them chow. And they do this because they got store goods. They got stuff in there. They got ramen noodles, and some great barbecue chips and a pack of tuna. So they think, oh, we don't care. We don't need this. And you're going through, you get through downstairs. You're going upstairs, get to the other 32. Whew, got through all that. Everything's okay. Well, you think it's okay. You got to go to the other side. You got the other 64 on the other side. So you start going, and then all of a sudden there's a problem. In the back of your mind, once you're finished with both sides, then you go back, it's time, pick them up. Because they'll be done eating by then. It'll be 12, 14 minutes already. So then you want to go back and you want to pick this up. But before you go, you know, and this is coordinated between inmates and gang people and different things, initiation, whatever. Stupidness, ignorant. And they'll do something, reach out and want to grab at your hand. Well, you smack her hand, you drop it, lock it up, then you got to stop. Now you got an assault on officer, you're going to have a use of force incident. Call Sarge, that's me, I call Lieutenant. The shift commander comes down. We start dealing with stuff, we make decision what we're going to do. Okay, we're going to stop here. We'll finish feeding, we'll pick up trays, because the trays need to go back to the dining hall, and they need to be clean. So there's all these elements that need to happen. And then you go back and you deal with those inmates that had the hand being out. And you get your food stuff all done, everything's done. You get this, you're tired. You look at your watch, you're like, man, I get off in an hour. You got a use of force going to happen. You tell them, hey, you're going to do this. Inmate, I need you to cuff up. You're going to cuff up. We're going to move you to a one-man cell. I'm not doing anything. Roommate, you going to cooperate and come out? Nope, I ain't going nowhere. Then, okay, you call, Lieutenant makes phone calls, you get stuff authorized, and then you go in for use of force, you're going to spray. Team's got all the riot gear on. Look at my pictures, you'll see me in riot gear. Open that flap, put spray in there, tell them come back, cuff up. They don't, you go in. Shield man comes in, hits them with a shield, bang, bang, knocks people on the ground, you get them cuffed, they get separated. They get put on a strip cell. Take all their stuff, you inventory it, you put all this down. All their property you got to go through, inventory it for each two of the inmates. They do this on purpose to aggravate you. You get all that stuff done. Then you're looking at your watch and you're like, hey, I was supposed to get off an hour ago. Then you got to write a report. And as supervisor, I got to pull video, pull body camera, get all this footage. Now all of a sudden I'm going to be 3 hours late after my 12-hour shift. And then officers, they want to pay them $30,000. Supervisors may get 10% more. And you grab some overtime. I'm just talking real quick about the chow hall business. Doesn't that sound exciting for no pay? Just checking your comments here. And thanks again, everybody. Real quick, thanks again for joining in. Don't forget to subscribe, Sergeant Beast Larson. And that way you can see every Wednesday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, podcast I'm a partner with called Prepper and Beast Hour. We talk prepping, foraging through the woods, survival stuff, self-defense, home defense, defense from cars. We've talked about stopping attempted abductions of you or your children, stuff like that. We're going to have a great PTSD discussion here in a couple weeks. We're going to set that up, kind of set some guidelines for that, because we want things. No, Diddy was not at my prison, but he's going to somebody's prison. I worked in a state prison, level 5 prison. He's going somewhere. I don't like Diddy, no. But I like pretty much everybody else that doesn't get involved in human trafficking. Speaking of human trafficking, and I'm telling you stuff really quick, why do people not want to stay in corrections? Well, I go down to the prison, we got 1,050 inmates. Guess what? Over 25 of them are confirmed to be HIV positive, and they will spit and try and get their body fluid on officers constantly. You're dealing with that for $30,000? Mew, that's a big thumbs down for a lot of people. Your training, basic academy. We had a basic 5-week academy. Week into firearms, which I'm retired police. I've been in the military, so I've been through some stuff. I've been to 2 police academies. Got a comment here. Thank you for comments. Thank you, everybody, for being here and listening to this. Let's see. Now I lose my train of thought here. But we'll talk about the salaries and recruiting part. If you have no experience in law enforcement, no experience background, they do your background check. Do a basic PT test. I started after my career in police. I was 48. I only had to do 7 push-ups. I'm telling you, if you struggle to do 7 push-ups, you will not be able to fight and save your life. You will not be able to fight and save your life. I'm telling you. 7 push-ups, you can't punch anything. You couldn't punch a paper bag off a table with 7 push-ups in your resume. 3, 4 sit-ups, All they got to do is knock you down. And these inmates, they manipulate, you know. And there's great books that are out here. And I wrote a book with a partner, not my podcast, a different partner, Timothy Amdahl, on Amazon. It's called Officer Perception: Surviving Danger. And I also wrote a book about why people kill with Tim. You know why? Because we've been around serial killers and mass killers and serial rapists, you know, working in prisons and law enforcement for 30 years. And they talk. They'll tell you stuff. Once they're caught and they're done, they'll tell you. They get sentenced, they'll tell you. Life in prison, they'll tell you anything. I had a great interview, and it's in the book, with the MS-13 enforcer from down south, from I won't say where. Just to protect his family. He's got families and brothers and sisters. And he became the man of the house at age 8. And that's the time that he went to kill his first person, was age 8, man of the house. Now, he came to our prison. He got stuck in my unit, and it was kind of unique. The warden, I had a message call a warden and go up to his office, and I go up, and he says, shut the door. And he says, you got a special inmate. Let me tell you some stuff. This is a secret. He said he should only be in here for a couple days in your unit, and then he's going to medical. He ended up about 2 weeks in our unit, and only supervisors knew. And we did keep this, you know, we were able to keep it a secret. But he was stage 4 cancer. He was very bad. They put him with another inmate that was also stage 4 cancer. So they both were in this together. One of the good decisions the prison made, they only made about 2. I won't tell you the other one. But he told me some stuff, told me some secrets to help. And they're great books. You take somebody, Walmart, take somebody working in a mall, a shoe salesman, a clothing salesman, somebody from Sam's, Costco's, that kind of store, grocery store, and then you put them with inmates. These aren't merchandise. You don't have earbuds in. It's not just you being quiet, working on the docks, loading, unloading, stuff like that. It's not like that at all. It's complete opposite. It is human management. You're managing people. You're parenting people. And these guys, these 19-year-olds, they tough as nails. They done killed 5 people. They brag about it. Check my sheet, check my sheet. I go and check their sheet and come back. And I say, I've got bad news. And he'd say, how come the chaplain's with you? And I'd tell him, well, your grandma passed away last night. And, you know, your family called. We're going to take you up. We're going to get you a phone call with your family. 18, 19-year-old kids don't deal with seeing suicide, seeing violence, seeing people stabbed, body parts cut open, ripped, inmates chewing on their hands and their arms, let alone go with me and tell somebody that their grandma just passed, or their mother or their sister was killed in a car wreck, or their sister was raped and murdered downtown Atlanta, and they're doing 5 life sentences. Now, I'm not racist, by the way. Not at all. I don't like people that harm children. All colors. Don't like people that harm children. I'll just throw that out there. Take a new person, come with me, make that notification, and then all of a sudden, this hardcore person just flips that switch. And it has nothing to do. They're not just going to come out and say you're bipolar, you're this or that, and label you. It's human nature comes out. All of a sudden, they've taken lives and seen death at age 19 like they shouldn't. Now all of a sudden their realization hits. They're locked like an animal in a cage forever until death. Them concrete and bars till death do they part. That's a long time, folks, in a different world. And the officer looks. The sergeant, me, having this conversation, because I've done this about 50 times, death notifications. None of them are ever good. It's hard to go and do something like that. That officer's going to get and take that home. Somebody made a comment on one of my videos I put on Facebook. And it said it's hard to let the day go, and it's hard to let it go when you retire. We're going to talk about that another day. Not taking your work home in corrections and law enforcement. Because it does. I've carried babies, infants, in body bags out of a house, out of an apartment, and go to an autopsy. How do you not take that home when you go home and see your family? And I have kids, and I'm sitting there changing my baby's diaper, and I just carried a baby and watched the autopsy 3 hours prior. And you want to pay somebody $30,000. That's why people aren't staying in corrections. And I started this, had technical difficulty last week. Daniel, I hope, and I'm going to make sure you get a link to this if you don't get to see this live. Daniel, I'm just elaborating what I started. How do you keep people in there when you're not training them? You're not taking care of this. Then this officer that's with me that sees this, that goes from this death notification, 1 hour later we go to another cell where the inmate's hanging and he's deceased. And he's just death notification and a dead inmate all in the same shift, and then they lose their crap, as they say. For $30,000, he looks at me and he says, I don't know, I think I might find a better job. And for me being a sergeant, what the warden tells me is I'm supposed to say, oh, it's okay. You get your 5 phone calls. HR will give you 5 phone calls to make for free, and then after that, the insurance will pay for counseling. Yeah, people die all the time in jail. I'm going to talk about that here in a minute. K-Dog, thank you. But as a human, I tell this young officer, hey, what skills do you have? What is your career goal? What would you like to do? What would you like to be? I'm going to guide that person. I'm not going to tell them, hey, you need to stay in correction. That's the way for you the rest of your life. I'm not going to give them that fake warden speech. I'm going to give them a reality. Hey, this is every day. I've done this a long time. I've done it a long time. That's why I'm here. I can do this. I'm used to this. Be real with them. Yes, self-defense, weight training, fitness routine, be a well-rounded officer. Yes, it takes all that because you have to have mental, emotional, physical strength to get through this. I know it's backwards. It says Hays State Prison Tactical Squad. I was assistant commander of a tactical squad as a sergeant. And we would take care of riots and things at other prisons, shakedowns at other prisons. Now, that's one of the things that Georgia used to try and retain officers was have this. And we traveled 28 prisons. And there, a couple years, we only did 2 or 3 searches. And then all of a sudden, we did 16 searches in 9 weeks. I'm like, holy cow. I was a sergeant. I got the extra assistant commander, extra $180 a month. I was averaging in that 4-month period of time about 80 hours a month in overtime. That's a good paycheck, but all the overtime came at the end of the month. And rolling good, rolling deep into money, about 5 months. That was them getting their little hook to advertise overtime, salary's great. And guess what? Somebody in the state financial office down in Atlanta headquarters of Georgia embezzled $2 million, and they shut our overtime down for 9 months. So now officers that are making all this overtime, and my overtime, I paid in 2 car payments, insurance, car insurance, and a couple other bills out of overtime alone. Now all of a sudden I got no overtime. Yeah, stick it to you. That's what they do. And you're a new officer at $30,000, and then things get stuck to you like that. That's why people leave. They don't stay. BJJ strongman, lifting stones and doing cardio, good enough. It is good. I never tell anybody that a list of things is good enough because there's always room to improve, if you understand that. Training is never ending and continual, but that is a very strong start. I did competitive strongman and powerlifting, so it made things easier. I picked up a lot of inmates, had a lot of fights with inmates. Did a lot of picking up throwing inmates just like an Atlas stone. So, yeah, you pick an inmate up different than an Atlas stone, but you get the point. You pick them up and you put them down. Pick them up, you put them down hard. But let's talk about recruiting. So you go out and you recruit. You go to high school and you recruit. You've seen people in high school. You've seen all our TikTok videos. They're so wrapped up in TikTok dancing and doing goofy stuff. Now all of a sudden put 15 high school kids and 10 of them are TikToker influencers in a room and try and convince them to work in corrections, to go feed and serve and pass out clothing and mail, personal goods, laundry to murderers. When all they do is get on TikTok, jump in a swimming pool with a ski mask on and dumb stuff. And that's who you want to hire to go work in a correction? No, that doesn't work. So this federal prison that I started off talking, you put a federal prison in, and all of a sudden you're in a county that has nobody to work. Where do you bring your people from? Well, your top people, your warden, your deputy wardens, you know, maybe unit manager or something, they have great perks once you stay through and get up to that higher ranks. They may get to live there for free. We had, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 houses there. I don't want to say it's a compound, but down there where Hays State Prison was in Treon, Georgia. And the warden and some other folks lived there, the high ranking. And they lived there, meaning they had a free house. So some officers are like, well, hey, I want to stick it out so that one day when I'm high ranking, I get a free house. And you just pay for utilities and cable, whatever extras you want. Gee, I don't want to live a quarter mile from the prisons and smell their stench all the time. Yeah, a brand new prison may not smell, but a 10, 20-year-old prison, it's going to smell. Concretes have been stained with blood and body parts. I don't care how much bleach and stuff you spray and wash off. Old concrete's old concrete. It's going to develop old, moldy, funky funk. Well, I'm retired there, K-Dog, but I have sprayed in police over 30 years in police and corrections. Well, I've sprayed over 500 people, I would say. A lot of people. And I was an instructor. I've been sprayed a lot myself. Sprayed a whole lot. That probably accounts to number one why I blink so much. So much pepper spray in my eyes. But I built up a great tolerance. You can spray me, I'm going to open my eyes and I'm ready to go. Remember, pepper spray in self-defense, not 100%. I'd say it's about 90% efficient maybe, because people are drinking and doing a lot more drugs now recreationally in the world. So their tolerance for weird stuff in their body and outside their body is a little better. So you got to recruit. I talked a little bit about this retention. You know, I'm keeping this short. This could be a 5-hour video to not tell you everything. I'm just kind of touching on things. But you're trying to recruit. You go to high school, you go to college, and you recruit, and you're talking. Then you're around town. How else do you recruit in a small county like that? You get the team to go out one day. Hey, guys, we're going to all go to lunch down at the Bob Evans or the Perkins or whatever. Let's all wear our uniform. We'll do some recruiting. Okay, yeah, you go down there, you're recruiting. You got a couple cooks. Guarantee one of them doesn't speak English. You got a couple waitresses in there. And the people in there are the county people that's lived there forever. They're older. They wouldn't do one push-up. They're not interested. Who are you recruiting? Where do you go to recruit? So they're not bringing in and housing, 200 correction officers from somewhere else. But to them, it's a moneymaker, because when they bring a new facility and they put it in there, they're not always thinking about the officer's salary, the officer's lifestyle, the mental and emotional toll it takes on an officer. They're thinking, we put in 1,000 inmates, we have a welding class, we weld, we build this, we sell this. We can make profit in the civilian market of, say, $1 million a year. That's all they care about. Here's another thing let me tell you about some states. Wardens and some federal and some state stuff, they get bonuses to not hire enough people and be short. We were always 78 to 95 officers short. So if you start off at $30,000 a person and you're 90 officers short, that's $2.7 million. Am I right? Somebody do the math. So the warden just saved, and now there's 28 prisons in Georgia. So if you save $2.7 million times 28, you just saved them a lot of money. I didn't do the math on that. That's for somebody else. They save money. And they're like, well, if we're saving $60 million, we can afford to spend $10 million in lawsuits. So we're still $50 million ahead. That's a bonus for them. That's why they do stuff. So you get into corrections and you're facing all these obstacles. And I was just giving you a quick example, and I did it quick and I kind of talked fast. I wanted to kind of build that energy through that feed off and the problems and what you're dealing with to come back, do the use of force. You're late, you're not going home. You got to get to a phone somehow and call your wife or husband, whatever, your significant other, because they're important to you and they're worried where you're at. See where I'm getting at? There's a lot of stress that builds into you. You got to have good, secure stuff at home, and they know, hey, don't expect them to ever come home on time. But they'll call you as soon as they get out to the car, or if they're going to be late and they get to one of the offices, they'll use a landline, a work number, and call and say, hey, this is going down. I'm going to be a little late. That's kind of the problem. We've been here almost 30 minutes. I don't want to make, 5-hour long live videos. Maybe occasional, couple hour long ones for later. But I just want to give you an idea. Corrections is tough. It's tough. And if you read through some of the comments, yep, divorce rates are really high, stuff like that. Get past all the guys talking about farting and all the stupid stuff like that. See, people that they do things like this and that, they don't last 5 seconds. They're the kind that are always saying, yeah, I would do this, I beat this guy up, I do that, I do that. You come to my house, I'm gonna shoot you. And they talk all this stuff, is fast talk, slick talk, and gonna do this car salesman kind of talk. Those people ain't nothing when they get inside. Because they get inside and run their mouth, and the quiet dude stand in the corner will walk over and just light them up. Bam, 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 and the blood's pouring. So y'all want to sit here and talk about farting in the middle of my video, don't get arrested because you ain't going to last. You're going to get your head knocked open, and Bubba's going to come take you in the shower. I'll make a video and I'll talk about Bubba in the shower for all you wise-ass people on here. Hey, thanks for joining, Sergeant Beast Larson. Corrections does change your personality. It will give you an attitude. You will learn how to say no and F off to a lot of people really quick. Got no tolerance for dumb. Got no tolerance for people that act like this. But what I'm doing here on my channel is to grow and develop and teach. So if you're unteachable and you don't want to learn, then don't be around. Don't be around. Because I got a lot of other people that need this and want this really bad. This is Sergeant Beast Larson signing out. Have a great night. Sunday night here. Tomorrow's Labor Day. Be safe. Protect your family and your kids. Thanks again.